Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 of my mini coloring series with a gorgeous stamp and polychromos pencils. Today in part 2 we're going to color her dress and her stockings. Now this is the stamp that we're going to be coloring. I already showed you this last week. You can see the finished image here, and what I want to do is I want to add a lot of folds to the dress so you can see that it's really bunched up. The coloring of her skin is something we did last week, and I will be linking to the video in the video description below so you can look that up. You can see that I've added some lines here on her dress, and this is just to give me an idea where the shadows will be, where the dress will bunch up when she's sitting. Now, of course, the cat will also cast a shadow. That means that if the light comes from the top right of the image, it would hit the cat's head, and everything behind the cat's head would be in the shadow. And then when you assume, like when you sit down and you're wearing a dress or a skirt, you can see that it bunches up. So you have folds, and part of those folds will be in the shadow because they're further behind, and parts of the fold will be hit by the light, and so they will be very light. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in with my darkest color here, and I'm just putting in the parts of the shadows where, you know, like the dress bunches up, and this is where the shadows are going to be. Then I'm coming in with my next lightest color, and I'm just adding in color to these folds, and then I'm working my way towards the lightest color. This is my first layer, as I've indicated before, and as I keep saying, this is something that takes time. So you have to work layer upon layer upon layer, building up your color, building up the intensity of the color until you're satisfied. It's a time-consuming process, but it's a lot of fun. At least for me it is. If you're wondering how I know how to do this with all the layering and how the dress would bunch and where the folds are, I learned all this in the coloring class from KIT CLOWDER, and I've linked to it in the video description below. There's also a link on my blog in the sidebar. I'm not affiliated, I'm not getting paid to make any advertisement for Alyce, who does these classes, but I've started those classes in around Christmas 2014, I think. So I'm basically only taking them for a year, and I haven't really been practicing every day, to be honest, but I feel that my coloring has improved so much, and I really didn't know what I was doing before, but thanks to those classes I actually understand what to do, how to apply the color, where to apply the color. I'm not saying I'm doing it right every time, but getting better at it. So that's just for all of you who ask how I learned this. So the third layer of color is actually not a layer of color, it's actually me going in with my white pencil over everything and blending the colors together. I know that some people don't want to do this because it mutes the colors a bit. I personally don't mind. I have by now actually purchased a blender pen from Lyra, I think, because Polychromos doesn't have, like Faber-Castell doesn't have a blender pen. But I still have to experiment. So far I haven't really seen any difference with the blender pen. So I still prefer to do it with the white pencil. So I did her dress, and now I'm doing her leggings, and I'm starting in the shadow areas. I started out with a darker yellow, then coming in with a lighter yellow, and then basically progressing through different yellows. That's what I'm doing, and what I want to do is have a highlight at like on the top of her legs, like where her shins are, because then her legs will look really round if you have shadows on the outside and the lightest part in the middle. And I hope you will see that by the time that I'm done coloring the stockings or leggings, that I really achieved this effect of her legs looking round and not flat. You might think, oh my goodness, that's a lot of detail for a tiny image. But that, to me, that's the fun of it. Like, I always want to challenge myself. Am I actually able to do this or am I not? And so this is really fun. You can see here I'm actually coming in with a brown color, not a very dark brown, but just something that will tone down the edges so it looks really round. And I'm doing the same here with the red, same principle, darkest red on the outside, lightest red in the middle. And I'm even adding some white right away in the middle, just to remind myself that this area really needs to stay light in order so it will look good. And you can see here I'm coming back in with the white and just enhancing this little bit. I'm actually going to come back at the end with a white gel pen. You can see that here to enhance that even more. And I even added a little bit of white gel pen to the folds of her dress so the highlights are even more accentuated. This was the second part of the coloring series, and meet me again next week, I hope, for part 3 where we will finish up the image. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye bye!